You've probably seen the footage at least once. Crowds of Western leftists marching through the streets waving Palestinian and Iranian flags, chanting in support of regimes that are, bluntly put, deeply brutal. It doesn't seem to bother them that these are totalitarian systems. Public executions, torture, shootings, gallows, the whole apparatus. What feels especially surreal is seeing gay, transgender, and other LGBTQ+ people at these rallies, passionately defending regimes where people like them are officially persecuted, even killed. On the surface, it looks completely absurd. So, how does this happen? Of course, not everyone on the left thinks this way, but a loud and highly visible segment, especially the more radical, anti-imperialist crowd, regularly downplays or excuses the actions of Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, and similar groups. This isn't some accidental betrayal of their values. It follows directly from how they see the world. First, their primary enemy is the West, especially what they view as the imperialist axis of the US and Israel. In that framework, the world isn't divided into democracies and dictatorships, but into imperialists and those who resist them. Iran, in their eyes, belongs to the axis of resistance. So when the regime executes gay people, abuses prisoners, kills protesting women, or sponsors terrorism, those facts get labeled as secondary, exaggerated, or dismissed as Western propaganda. This is a classic case of campism, the assumption that my side is right by default. The same logic was used in the past to justify regimes under Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, Gaddafi, Assad, or even the chaos in Venezuela. What matters most is who you're against. Human rights become a footnote. Second, there's cultural relativism. When it comes to their side, liberal values suddenly get reframed as a form of Western imperialism. Criticizing the fact that women in Iran can be beaten or killed for refusing to wear a hijab gets dismissed as Islamophobia or colonial thinking. Meanwhile, when Iranian clerics or Saudi authorities criticize the West, it's framed as the voice of the oppressed. The result is something close to a paradox. Iranian feminists risking their lives over something as basic as how they dress are, to some Western activists, not real feminists. The real ones, apparently, are those in London or New York staging protests to defend the hijab as a symbol of resistance. Third, there's a long-standing pattern. Since at least the 1960s, parts of the Western left have had a tendency to romanticize anyone fighting against Americans or Israelis, Castro, Khamenei, and now groups like Hamas. Back in 1979, many welcomed the Iranian Revolution as a popular, anti-imperialist uprising. When the new regime started imprisoning and executing the very leftists and communists who had supported it, that was brushed off as the excesses of revolution. The same dynamic plays out today. In reality, Iran represses leftists, trade unions, feminists, Kurds, Baha'is, and LGBTQ+ people on a large scale. But for a Western anti-imperialist, that often doesn't carry much weight. What matters is that the regime opposes Zionism and American imperialism. Finally, there's straightforward domestic politics. Criticizing Iran can feel like putting yourself on the same side as figures like Trump, Netanyahu, or the broader political right, something many find psychologically uncomfortable. In Europe, Muslim communities are also a significant voting bloc, and politicians are wary of alienating them. Add to that decades of post-colonial theory in universities and media, where violence by the oppressed is often interpreted through the lens of historical trauma, and you get a powerful incentive structure. Why does all this come across as hypocrisy? Because in many cases it is. The same people who can spark outrage over the wrong pronoun or a microaggression on campus can suddenly find endless justifications for regimes where women are dragged through the streets and minorities are brutally punished. At that point, it's no longer about defending the vulnerable. It's about defending an ideological tribe at any cost. To be fair, there are also more grounded voices on the left. Social democrats, liberal feminists, and especially Iranian activists in the diaspora who call the regime what it is, a repressive, theocratic dictatorship. But in Western media, their voices are often drowned out by those willing to sacrifice liberal principles in the name of anti-imperialism. The end result is a strange inversion. Some of the loudest, self-proclaimed defenders of human rights in the West end up acting as apologists for some of the most repressive regimes in the world. Because for them, human rights aren't a universal standard. They're a tool, selectively applied in the struggle against their own society. Thank you for listening. If you think this was interesting, hit like and subscribe.